We'd like to thank our sponsors. EuroPlayers, which is one of the best websites for players and coaches to find jobs in Europe. Coach's Choice, which is a great library and there's a lot of resources for coaches. Growth of the Game, which is a website that you should check out. Those guys are publishing a book. And American Football International, where you can have information about football over in Europe. Our speaker tonight is Dave Cisar. He's been coaching youth football in America for quite a while now. He's been Coach of the Year, I think, in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. So, Coach, I'll turn over everything to you.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on. You know, I've been to Europe several times. Can you hear me, Coach?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, oh, great. I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I mentioned before, I've been to Europe several times, and I've always been impressed with the ability of the coaches. You know, American football, in my opinion, or many people over here, we don't realize how long American football has been in place in Europe and how serious a core group of guys are about coaching. So the first time I went to Europe, which to do coaching clinics, was about 3 years ago. I went to a clinic in Dusseldorf, and I think we had about 120 coaches there, and I was extremely surprised. I mean, we have a really good group of aggressive guys that want to get better at coaching, and what they told me is that in Europe it's very similar to the United States in that at the youth level, that's children that are anywhere from 7 to about 15 learning football for the first time. It's really similar to the dynamic that you all have when you're teaching the coaches that you have, because most of the players that you have are anywhere from, say 15 to, say, 25 years old, but a lot of the players in Europe are learning football for the first time. So we have a lot of things that are in common. And what I found when I was doing the clinic in Europe is that, or the clinics in Europe, was that a lot of Europeans are misunderstood or misunderstand what a lot of the very successful youth and high school coaches do in America. So what I'm basically here to do is to talk about practice organization and how to get the most out of your practice time. Okay, so we're not going to talk a lot about X's and O's. What we're going to talk about is really how do you conduct a successful practice, and where do you invest your practice time. Again, here in the United States, the coaches that are always consistently successful at the high school, which is ages 15 to about 18, to the youth level, which is ages anywhere from 7 to about 14, the guys that are consistently successful are those teams that practice really, really well. So we're going to talk about, where to invest that practice time, how to invest it, where the teams that are successful invest that time, the methodology or process of teaching effectively, and then where the teams that consistently lose or don't do well, where they invest their practice time. So we basically want to kind of stay away from copying some of the teams that don't do so well. So why are we here? I mean, the thing about American football is the people that we're coaching, we love the people we coach. We like the kids that we coach. We appreciate what they're trying to do, and we basically want to pass along something that maybe we learned from the game, whether that's something about hard work, whether it's about competition, whether it's about the physicality. We just want to pass something along. Football teaches life lessons like no other. In my mind, youth football or even football in general really teaches people about overcoming obstacles, about commitment, about hard work. Those are all things that people can take beyond the game of football. In the United States, we've had American football here for over 100 years, but kids have options in the United States today. Back when I started playing football, which was about 48 years ago, kids didn't have many options. Okay, there was just football or there was nothing else. Well, in the United States now, soccer has really taken off. I mean, I know in Europe soccer is king, but we have soccer, we have lacrosse, we have year-round baseball, we have year-round basketball, we have video games, we have lots of different options available. So in the United States, in order for you to have a successful youth football or football program, you have to make sure that the kids are enjoying themselves, okay? So we can't just make it all about X's and O's and physicality. in my mind, we have to make it fun as well. So we're going to talk about, not only how to make practices, invest practice time to make it effective, but also how to have fun. And some guys talk about the fact that football isn't supposed to be fun, that it's a physical game. Well, kids have a lot of options today, and you can have fun, and you can teach great football and have fun at the same time. So before you do anything, a lot of guys want to get into X's and O's, but you have to define what it is that success is. And I don't know what success is for you, but for success for me is to develop a love and appreciation of the game and my players so they'll continue to play the game that teaches life lessons like no other. So for me, I want to make sure that that we're retaining our kids. There was a Michigan State study that came out that said 70% of kids playing youth football today in the United States will not be playing youth football when they get to the high school level. And the reason because of that was poor coaching. So we want to make sure that the kids have a good experience so they'll continue to play the game of football. And we'll talk about how to do that, because I know in Europe you guys are competing with other sports. And if you don't make the experience fun for the player where they can't have some reasonable success, they're going to go on and play another sport. So we're going to talk about why kids quit or why players quit. Number one reason is poor coaching. The Michigan State study said it was poor coaching. They're playing on non-competitive teams. If you're losing every week 40 or 50 to nothing and you aren't scoring many points, they're going to move on to something else. And the same thing is for lack of playing time. It's great to have big rosters of 30, 40, or 50 players, those types of things. However, if you can't get everyone reasonable amounts of playing time, not the same amount, but reasonable amounts of playing time, the player is going to move on to something else. So we're going to talk about how to get players playing time without, affecting the competitiveness of your team. Teaching great fundamentals, being great sports, getting everyone meaningful playing time, having fun, and retaining all your players and winning are not mutually exclusive. So don't let me mislead you to think that we're only about having fun. We want to win as well. My record as a coach when it comes to 2014 is 168 wins and 24 losses. And I've done that with basically 5 different teams in 3 different areas of the country. I did that in the Midwest, in Omaha, Nebraska, in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is about 60 miles away. And then I did it in Reno, Nevada for a television show called Worst to First, where I took a group of 14-year-old boys that had won 6 games in 6 years, and we basically took that team over and commuted back and forth to Nebraska every week, which is over 1,000 miles away, and we took that team to the semifinals of their league. So we do want to win. We do think there's virtue in winning, and we're going to invest our time to the point that we can be competitive. So we're going to talk about all of these things. We're going to talk about common mistakes, getting and keeping players' attention, setting expectations, all of these things that you guys can read them. I'm not just going to bring up the problem, but I'm going to talk about the solution to the problem. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, please interrupt me. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Common mistakes are poor priorities, and priorities are where do you invest your practice time. Yes.
Can you hear me, Coach?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So far we have no question. We just received one question. Anytime we have a question, I'll just. Yeah,
that's fine. Just interrupt me. No sweat.
Yeah. All right. So we're good for now. You can keep going.
Okay, so poor priorities. Priorities are where do you invest your practice time. And again, I did a 2-year study of some of the best and the worst programs in the area, okay? In the state of Nebraska, the biggest thing is football. We only have 1.7 million people in our region, in our state, but come college football Saturdays, which is, we play in the fall every Saturday, there's 91,000 people attending the college football game. So basically 1 in every 20 people in this entire region attend this college football and support this college football team, the team from the area. And we've had that stadium has sold out every single game since 1961. So it's been over 50 years of consecutive sellouts where 1 in every 20 people in the entire state is attending this football game. So football is very, very important here. So I studied the programs in the area who won national championships and teams who hadn't won. So I basically compiled that information and came up with a system, an approach that could be successful not only for my program. I had 400 boys in my program, but could be used by other programs to copy that success. So common mistakes are too lenient, too tough. So a coach can be too lenient or too tough. There is a good middle ground. People that know the game but can't teach it. I'm sure you've run into a few Americans that were really, really good players who maybe played in high school or college, or maybe with the service, and they came over with very high credentials, but they weren't good coaches. And the reason for that is because it doesn't matter what the coach knows, it matters what the players know. So the converse is true. You can have a player, or a coach rather, who is a terrible player, who wasn't a very good player at all, who maybe not even played the game at all. And some of those guys who didn't play the game at all or played the game poorly can be good coaches as well. So we don't want to exclude someone just because they weren't a good player. And at the same time, we won't want to make someone a champion just because they were a good player. Because I fired many very, very successful college players because of the fact that they weren't good coaches, good teachers. Pace is too slow, chaos, too much conditioning, too much scrimmaging, too much cows and stretching, too much practicing, coaches stepping over each other, emphasis on toughening up, poor planning, too much standing around, poor execution, lack of good fundamentals, and not having fun. So we're going to talk about each one of these, and I do have some film clips and some things that you guys can take home from this. First of all, fun is not the enemy, okay? And I'm not talking about just making a carnival atmosphere, but there's nothing wrong with before practice, you know, having frisbees and playing music before practice. We want kids, we want players to enjoy themselves and looking forward to coming to practice. Fun can be added to any drill and includes focus, comprehensive effort, attendance, and enthusiasm. I've coached in the inner city, which is a very, very poor area, and we had over 95% perfect attendance in our players. And the reason is because they had fun at practice. You know, you're not going to have a successful team if players don't look forward to and attend practice. It improves player and parent buy-in. It improves competitiveness, and why not? And the reason I ask to say why not is because I always hand out a questionnaire to my players, and the question is why do you sign up to play football? And the number one reason is we wanted to have fun. The number two reason was because they wanted to spend time with their friends. So why not? I mean, fun is the reason that they're there. So we don't want to make it a drill sergeant camp. We want to make it fun and interesting for the player, and we'll show you some ways that you can do that here in a minute. First of all, getting and keeping players' attention, and this is for young kids as well as teenagers and even adults. You know, they're there to have fun, and it's okay for them to socialize, but at the same token, when you're trying to teach a concept, it's really, really important that everyone pays attention. And what we use is what we call the ready focus method, okay? So we don't expect all the players to be quiet at all times. However, when the coach is trying to stress a coaching point, and the coaching point is important, what we'll do is we'll yell the word ready. When we yell the word ready, the players all yell the word focus at the same time. So we yell ready, everyone yells focus, and when they yell focus, they're to drop their hands, quit moving, look directly into the eyes of the coach. Now we tell the players this, and I'm not sure you could do that with adults, but we tell the players this, the youth players this: if we look into your eyes and you're not looking into our eyes, that you're giving us a secret signal. This is a secret football signal, and you're using a language only football players know. And you're telling us by not looking into our eyes, Coach, make me run immediately. Now, I'm not a person that likes to make players run. However, I do need players to pay attention. So when we see a player, we yell ready, they yell focus, and they aren't looking into our eyes, we'll send them for a run, okay? And we don't send someone on a long lap. We don't get into the punishment like that. But we'll send them to the cone about 20 yards away, and then we'll run them back. And the reason we do this is because we do not want to waste 2 or 3 minutes every 10 or 15 minutes to get people's attention. Players need to pay attention, and we find that when we use this approach, ready, focus, players all look, players have to look until the coach is done talking, that works really well. Okay? So ready, focus will save you a bunch of practice time by not having the players, off talking to themselves.